Nobody has ever lost money unless you have canceled or violated the policy contract. The insurance company has never not did what they said they were going to do. I want to be very clear with that. So the only one that can screw this thing up is you. And who do you know better than you? That's it. Nobody else can screw this up because it's never happened in the history of as long as whole life insurance has been around.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor! 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 Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. Alex Schlow.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little different and honestly maybe a little controversial, but the topic that we're talking about today is incredibly important. We're going to talk about infinite banking, whole life insurance, and the idea of recapturing and recycling your money. Some people swear by it. Other people have just been misunderstood or maybe misused or misled by some other financial strategies out there. But my guest today, Dr. Brent Kesler, is an expert and the creator and teacher of the Money Multiplier Method. He's used this system to pay off nearly $1 million in third-party debt in under 4 years and has spent over a decade teaching people how to rethink money, debt, and control. Brent, welcome to the show.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to share with your community today.
Absolutely. So glad to have you here. It was great to connect and learn more about you at the Legacy RX conference that our mutual friend Kyle Stevenson put on. So great to have you on the podcast today and share more about your story. I figured we'll kind of start at the beginning. You were a chiropractor and a coach, not a finance guy initially. What kind of broke in your financial life before you discovered the Money Multiplier Method?
Yeah, absolutely right. I was not a financial guy whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I was the guy that was in a lot of debt and stuff. And, I made $1, spent $1.05, right? So yeah, that was not my thing. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of backstory, just as you said, I was a chiropractor in my last life. I owned 5 clinics in the Kansas City area. And I actually have not really been practicing in chiropractic since about 2008. I had associate doctors in those clinics. I sold my last clinic in 2017. And the majority of the clinics that I sold to the docs that were already in there working in the clinics, and I hired them as associates. We trained them, and then they eventually, came in and bought the clinic. So my wife and I became empty nesters, almost 10 years ago now, back in 2017, where we were living in Kansas City, and then we moved to Florida, which is where I was raised. I was raised in Southwest Florida, the Fort Myers, Cape Coral area. And we actually moved to a town in Florida called Port Orange. It's right next to Daytona Beach, about an hour east of Orlando. So we moved here in 2017. Why did I move to Port Orange? Well, I'm a big aviator. I love aviation. And there's a community here called Spruce Creek, and it's an old Navy base. And so anyway, all of us have airplane hangars attached to our houses. So we have our airplanes and we have a runway so we can fly in and fly out. So that's why I moved here to Spruce Creek, kind of on the northeastern side of Florida. But so anyway, as a chiropractor back in 2006, I went to a chiropractic conference, and I went to this conference not to learn about money and finance, but to learn more about how to build, my practice and how to, get more patients, have them stay, pay, and refer, just like all physicians want to do, right? Because the thing we do is we go through school, we get the good knowledge of school about how to be a doctor, the clinical knowledge. But if you think about it, they don't teach you anything about business. I mean, very little do they teach you about business. And once you graduate, you got all this student loan debt, and you're like, okay, now what do I do? I got this word doctor behind my name, but that and $5 will buy you a cup of Starbucks, right? It means nothing. So you put the shingle up and you think people are going to come running through your door. I'm Dr. Brent Kesler, chiropractor, and I'm going to have all these patients come in my door. Well, that doesn't necessarily happen, right? So they don't really teach you about the business. So I went to this business conference, so specifically for chiropractors, back in 2006. And there was this gentleman that came on stage, and he talked about this thing, how to become your own banker, the infinite banking concept. And I was like, wow, that is really, really good information. That's powerful information, but there's got to be a catch because it seems way too good to be true. There's no way what this man can be telling me could actually work the way he's telling me, right? I'm sure you've seen things like that too, Alex, in the past, where you went to different conferences and you looked at things, you saw people speak or saw product services, and you're like, it looks good, but it seems too good to be true. Well, that was me. So I kind of shut down my mind. I took the information in, but I left that conference and did nothing with it. I just went back to my normal chiropractic life, right? So then about 2 years later, I go back to another chiropractic conference. Now, at that conference, about 8 or 10 of my colleagues that were at that previous conference with me in 2006 are now at this new conference in 2008. Now, the only difference between them and me, Alex, is they implemented the information that they heard. They took all this information in and they actually did something about it. So they assumed I did too. So at this new conference, they're coming up to me and they're like, Brent, isn't that banking concept the most powerful thing ever to build, keep, and create wealth, to pay off your debt, to recapture, recycle money, all without working harder, all without changing your cash flow, without taking any additional risk, right? They were going on and on, okay, just about this because they assumed I was doing it, but I wasn't. And I had kind of forgotten about it. And when they started talking about it, I kind of remembered it a little bit. And I was like, wow. This has got to be something to this. There's no way 8 or 10 of my colleagues are lying to me. Maybe 1 or 2, but not 8 or 10. So it was February of 2008. I came home and I told my wife, I said, honey, we've got to start implementing this financial concept in our life. I don't really know much about it, but there's no way all of our colleagues are telling us a lie, right? So I said, we got to start implementing it. And at that time, February of 2008, I was $984,711 in debt. Now, remember, I lived in Kansas, right? And you can buy a lot in Kansas for $1 million. I know if you live in California, it buys you a very small house. But in Kansas, you can buy a boatload of crap for $1 million. Now, you're probably thinking, Alex, how do you know exactly what amount of money you were in debt? Well, that was part of the exercise. I had to know what that amount is. And let me just tell you, for those of you that have any debt, whether it's good debt or bad debt, and if you don't know that exact number, if you sit down and peel back the onion and you really look at it, it is a very painful exercise. It can be a painful exercise to look and see exactly how much you owe. Well, that was part of the exercise, so I had to do it. Well, I was able to put this concept into place. Now, okay, before I get to that, you're probably thinking, well, how does a guy from Kansas get to be almost $1 million in debt, right? Well, I had my student loans from chiropractic school. I had the house that I lived in. I had a house in the Lake of the Ozarks between St. Louis and Kansas City. And if you have a house on the lake, Alex, you have to have a boat and a wave runner, right? You can't have a boat and a wave runner, right? Just as far as being on a house without a lake, you have to have that. As I said earlier, I'm an airplane pilot, so I had to have my own airplane. So it didn't take me a lot to become almost $1 million of debt. I applied these concepts and these principles that I learned, and I was able to pay that debt off in 39 months, 3 years and 3 months. And Alex, I never had to do anything different. In other words, I didn't have to change my cash flow. I didn't have to work any harder. I never lost control on my money, right? All I did was added one step in my financial life. That's it. I added one step in my financial life. I paid off all of that debt. I became really passionate about this, started telling other people about it. So then in 2012, in March of 2012, I decided I wanted to start teaching this to others. So here we are, fast forward now 14 years later. I've been teaching this around the country. Probably up to about a year ago, I was doing 50 to 70 live events a year, 100 to 120 podcasts, Zoom, virtual meetings a year. I still do it just like we're doing a podcast today, but I just don't do it as much because now I'm kind of wanting to do some other things in my life. However, I'm still very active in it. I just don't do as much public speaking. Now, my daughter, on the other hand, which back when we were in Indianapolis at the Kyle Stevenson event, the Legacy RX event, you met my daughter, Hannah. She's very active in speaking on this. She has her own podcast too called the Money Multiplier Podcast. So yeah, man, that's kind of where it all started.
That is amazing. Yeah, so able to pay off $1 million in debt in 39 months. So let's kind of step out, take that 30,000-foot view, especially as a pilot. You can relate to that.
Yep.
And let's talk about kind of in plain English, what is the Money Multiplier Method? What is infinite banking? Because I know a lot of times folks hear infinite banking and whole life insurance, and they immediately kind of shut down. So let's talk about the basics there, Brent, if you don't mind.
You're exactly right. And people do shut down, kind of like I shut down in a way. When I first heard it, I didn't think I thought it was too good to be true. So it took me 2 years to start. Well, anyway, so let's go back to kind of, again, not the very beginning, but kind of the beginning. So the first thing is this book right here, Becoming Your Own Banker. This is a book that I actually bought in 2006 at that conference, and I brought it home and I put it on my shelf. Now, the guy that wrote this book, R. Nelson Nash. Now, this book, this gentleman, he completely changed my life. This book changed my life. Now, R. Nelson Nash was my mentor, and we lost him almost 7 years ago in March of 2019. He passed away at age 87 years old, all right? But this book and Nelson Nash completely changed my financial life. So I'm going to recommend to all of your viewers, okay, go out and find this book. Wherever you buy books from, go get this book called Becoming Your Own Banker. Add this book to your wealth building library. There's also 2 audios that you can get, 2 hours worth of audios that go with it also. So if you're like me and you have a little ADD and maybe don't like to read as much, you can listen to those audios. But the book is the foundation of really how this all began. Now, okay, the thing is, Alex, with that being said, Nelson Nash did not invent the infinite banking concept. He just kind of brought it to light. The concept itself has been around for well over 250 years. And if you go and research the wealthy people in history, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays, if you go research how Walt Disney built Disneyland, how Ray Kroc funded McDonald's, how Pampered Chef got started before Warren Buffett purchased Pampered Chef, this is the concept that they used. This is what the wealthy use to keep control of their money. Now, look, a lot of people, when they hear about it, they think, well, there's got to be a catch, and they think, well, the infinite banking concept, tell me what it is. What's it about? Now, you've already mentioned it, and you mentioned it before I would have even just said the nasty word, but you've already said the nasty word. And hopefully we haven't lost too many of your listeners because of you saying the nasty word. But again, it's okay because I'm going to say the nasty word anyway. And that nasty word is, well, Brent, people say, well, tell us what it is. What is the infinite banking concept? Well, I kind of explained to you a little bit about it, but you're thinking to yourself, what is it that I need to do? What is that product or service that I have to be able to do just in order to implement this process in my life? And the nasty word that you already mentioned twice, Alex, that maybe people caught or they didn't catch, was the product you're going to use, the vehicle you're going to use to build, keep, and create wealth is a whole life insurance policy. That's the nasty word, life insurance. Now, I know I just lost a lot of your viewers, okay? I lost a lot of them because they're thinking, what? Life insurance to build wealth? That's a crazy idea. I would never want to use life insurance to build wealth. As a matter of fact, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman said that would be a bad idea. Well, let me just tell you, you do not know everything about this vehicle because if you did, you would be implementing it in your own life now. So I'm going to ask all the viewers that are still with me that have not tuned out yet to keep an open mind because I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. Keep an open mind, and maybe there is something you know about building, or maybe there is something you don't know about building wealth that somebody else does know. So I'm not asking you to believe me. As a matter of fact, here's what I'm going to encourage every one of you to do. I'm going to encourage every one of you, no matter what I say today, whether you believe me or don't believe me, don't take what I say as gospel. You go out and Google my name, Brent Kesler. You go out and Google my company name, the Money Multiplier. You go out and Google, that, and you look at the hundreds and hundreds of success stories, plan designs, case studies, and testimonials of what people say about how this concept has totally changed their financial life. how we at the Money Multiplier have helped them implement the strategy to build, keep, and create wealth through their own debts and expenses that they already have. So don't take my word for it. As a matter of fact, there's another mentor of mine. His name is Joel Bauer, B-A-U-E-R. Joel Bauer lives in Woodland Hills, California. And if you've never heard of him, go look him up. But Joel Bauer always taught me this. He says, people live vicariously through the words and actions of others. It doesn't matter what you say about yourself. It doesn't matter what Brent Kesler says about Brent Kesler. It doesn't matter what Alex says about Alex. It's what other people say about you that what really, really matters. So that's why I tell everybody, go out and Google my name, Google my company, and look at what those people are saying. But in the meantime, have an open mind. Remember, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we should be listening twice as much as we're talking. Now, I'm still trying to learn that trade. I haven't learned it yet. But the thing we need to be is we need to have an open mind and we need to listen. Now, I told you this concept has been around for over 200 years. Our tax code has only been here since 1913, a little over 100 years, right? Now, if you think about the wealth and all of the stuff that has gone in our country since even just to go back to the year 1900, look at the recession, the Great Depression, all the ups and downs in the economy that we have had. Nothing on this planet has stood the test of time like whole life insurance. Now, whole life insurance is not going to make you wealthy by you just buying a policy. And it's not going to make you wealthy. It's the implementation of that policy when you buy it. Now, I want to be totally clear, Alex. This is not any type of life insurance policy that you can go buy. No. It's not the policy you can go buy from your brother-in-law that sells life insurance. We all have a brother-in-law that sells life insurance. It is not that type of policy. As a matter of fact, I can almost guarantee you your brother-in-law that sells it knows nothing about this concept. It is not a term policy. It's not a variable policy. It's not a universal policy. It's not an IUL and index universal. This is a specifically designed, specially engineered whole life policy in a mutual company, keyword there, mutual company, that pays dividends, that is designed for high immediate cash value. One more time, high immediate cash value. Now, that means what? What does that mean? That means when you put money into this policy, you immediately, anybody that knows me knows my definition of immediately is within 30 days. So from now on, when you hear me say the word immediately, you automatically think, oh, Brent said immediately. That means within 30 days. You put money into this policy and immediately, AKA within 30 days, you have the cash value to use in that policy for anything you want to use it for in life, no questions asked. I don't care if you invest in real estate, you can invest in gold or silver, antique cars. You may not even be an investor. You may just be struggling to pay the rent or get by week to week. Buy a car, buy a bicycle, buy a boat, a piano, a chandelier, a big screen TV, whatever it is, to buy your groceries, to pay your electric bill. Whatever it is, when you add this one simple step in your financial life, Alex, you are now changing the way that your money works because you're keeping all of that money inside of a closed system. There's no money being leaked out to other people. That money is inside of a closed system, and you are building and keeping and creating wealth based on your own debts and expenses that you already have. So a lot of people ask me, Alex, well, tell me what it is you actually do. Well, if I'm like in an airport or I'm sitting next to someone on a plane or at the grocery store and somebody says, well, tell me, what do you do for a living? Well, I help people build, keep, and create wealth through their own debts and expenses that they already have. They're like, what? What does that even mean? I know it doesn't make sense. Well, let's use the example of a car. See, I don't even know, Alex, how you buy a car or how your audience buys a car. The thing is I don't know your audience, but I do know how you buy every car that you buy, how all your audience buys every car. It's one of 3 ways. They pay cash for the car, they bank finance the car, or they lease the car. Because I know because again, I know your audience are not thieves. They're not dishonest. Well, a couple of them might be a little shady, but most of them are pretty honest, right? So here's what they do. They have to take money. They got to take the money and they have to give it to the car dealer, don't they? It doesn't matter if you buy it with cash or you lease it or you bank finance it. You have to take your money, you have to give it to the car dealer. Well, what does a car dealer do in exchange? They give you a car. Yeah, they get the money, you get the car. That's how we buy cars. We're all happy when that happens. We all get what we want, yes? The transaction stops there. But what if we add one step into that equation? What if we take the money, we give it to the car dealer gives us the car, so he's got the money, we get the car. But because we added that one step in our financial life, and that one step is what? We ran the money through the policy first. First, we put the money in the policy, then we took the money from the policy to go buy the car. So we added one step in our financial life. And when we do that, Alex, not only do we get the car that we just purchased, yes, the car dealer still gets the money, but we are able to recapture and recycle all of that money that we just spent for the car. What? Recycle the money? What does recycle recapture? It means you gave the money for the car. You got the car, but now by adding that one step, you now get all of the money back plus the car. How would you like, Alex, to have every dollar back for every car you have bought up to this point in your life? Wouldn't that be pretty cool?
I would love it.
I mean,
that'd be great.
That's just one example of a car. So if I can do it with a car, can I do it with a boat, a bicycle, a piano, a chandelier, a house, a condominium complex? You talked to me earlier about assisted living facilities. Assisted living facilities are not cheap, right? To have a residential assisted living facility. Mm-hmm. What if we could have the asset, the product, the service, whatever it was, a protein drink, whatever it was, we could buy it and get the money back. That's exactly what we are doing in this concept. I know it sounds too good to be true, but again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do not take my word for it. Go Google my name, go Google the Money Multiplier. Or crap, just go Google, just go look up what the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays have been doing in their financial life for centuries. Go look and see what they're doing. And that's all we're doing is adding that one step in our financial life. So there is no catch. There is no catch. Now, I will tell you that you are going to be your worst enemy. You're going to be your worst problem in this because you're going to say, you know what? I'm not disciplined. I'm not good with money. I can't do that. I cannot live on less than what I make. You've got to be willing. You have to be willing to be disciplined with your money. So if you're the type of person that makes $1 and spends $1.05, this is going to be hard for you. I have over 17,000 clients I work with in every state of this country. I have people that are very, very disciplined with money. And then I have other clients that they think just because they have checks left, there's still money in the bank. All right. Two totally different ends of the spectrum. So where do you fit in that realm? It's not hard. It's not difficult. It's just about you taking that one additional step. This is not a get rich quick deal. This is not a sprint. It is a marathon. It is a marathon. But let me tell you this, Alex, nobody in this country, you can be in, I don't care where you're living. You can be in your state of Colorado, my state of Florida, any state in this country. Nobody has ever lost money in a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. Nobody has ever lost money unless you have canceled or violated the policy contract. The insurance company has never not did what they said they were going to do. I want to be very clear with that. So the only one that can screw this thing up is you. And who do you know better than you? That's it. Nobody else can screw this up because it's never happened in the history of as long as whole life insurance has been around.
Whew, Brent, that was great. Let's talk about the recapture and recycling and kind of what that looks like. Because I would love to get all my money back on any car I've ever bought. Mechanically, what does that look like in terms of starting the policy, paying into the policy, taking that money out to purchase the car, giving that money to the dealership, getting the car, getting the money back? What does that recapture and recycle your money actually look like?
Sure. And again, I'm going to explain it on a 25,000 foot view. But if you go to my website, themoneymultiplier.com, and I know you're going to put that in the notes and everything. If you go to my website, www.moneymultiplier.com, and all you do when you get there, you click on a tab that says Watch Brent Now. I have a 90+ minute video with all the examples, all the downloadable attachments. You can study it in nauseating detail. I go through it in great detail of the steps of exactly how it works. As a matter of fact, in that example, I show you how somebody paid off $470,000 of debt in 61 months with a $160,000 outside injection without working harder, changing cash flow, taking any additional risk, or losing control. I show you how somebody buys a $25,000 car every 5 years over and over and over, and they recycle and they reuse the same money over and over again. So not only did they get the car, but they get all the money back. And if you can do it with a $25,000 car, it works with a $2,500 computer, a $250 pair of shoes, a $250,000 house, or remember, I'm an aviator, a $2.5 million airplane. You can add the zeros, take off the zeros, do whatever you want. The concept works for every product and service. So on that video, I go through in great detail of how it works. And by the time you get done watching that, yes, it is 90 minutes. So you will have to probably turn off an episode of The Bachelor or The Voice, or maybe skip, your kid's soccer practice or piano lessons to watch 90 minutes of it. But is 90 minutes of your time worth potentially changing your financial life? But high level. So here's what we do, Alex. Money is a means of exchange. I ask people all the time, what's the definition of money? People give me different definitions. They all kind of definitions of money, but all money is a means of exchange, because all we do with money is exchange it for products and services. I exchange food for money, money for food, car for money, money for car, house for money, money for car. That's all it is a means of exchange. So whenever I give this money out to anybody right now, anytime we pay money out, I just had this conversation with my possible future daughter-in-law about her student loans. She just graduated school. She got a job. She's a PA. She's a physician's assistant. She's $101,000 in student loan debt. She has like 11 different loans. Her lowest interest rate is 2.6%. Her highest interest rate is 9.5%. She just got out like 3 or 4 months ago, or probably a little longer than that. She just got her job, just at the beginning of December, she started her first job over in Cape Coral, Florida as a physician's assistant. So now she's like, okay, well, I got to pay these student loan backs, her loans back. Well, there's no other debt she has. So she can take all of her money. She got just a pretty good job. Her first job, she's making, I think, $160 a year, for starting out as a PA, 24 years old. So no bills. She owes $101,000 of student loans. So her mindset is like, well, when I get my paycheck, I want to pay down those student loans as quick as I can. I want to get them paid down. I want to get them wiped out. And I'm like, no, Summer. Yes, we want to pay them down, but we just don't want to send the money out to the student loan people. Because when you do that, yes, you're paying down the student loans, which is a good thing, but the money is gone. It's left your family forever. So if I take this money and I pay it for any product or service, in this case, student loans, and it just goes to them, the money has left my family forever. That money's not coming back. What if we just add that one step? What if we put this money into this account, in this case, this whole life policy, where when you put it in there, the money is inside of a closed system. It's compounding and growing in a tax-free growth rate environment, and you're able to access the cash value of that money to now go out and pay the student loan. Well, when you do it that way, you've never interrupted the compounding effect on the money, because the money you have now put into this environment, it's growing internally tax-free. You're taking a loan from the general fund of the insurance company. A loan, by the way, that you never have an obligation to pay back, or you never have a payment scheduled to pay back. Will the loan eventually get paid back? Yes, it will, because you're guaranteed to die, pass, graduate, whatever word you like to use. So essentially, here's what you're doing. You are borrowing from the death benefit. You're almost getting a prepayment from your death benefit to use that money while you're living. All at the same time, your money is compounding in this growth rate environment. It's getting better and efficient as the day goes on. Today's better than yesterday. Tomorrow's better than today. That's not my flapping gums and moving lips telling you that. That is inside of your policy contract. Before you ever accept or pay for one of these policies, you need to look at the contract, and it's going to show you guaranteed what it's going to do. It'll show you guaranteed what it's going to do, and it'll also show you non-guaranteed what it's going to do. Now, it can never be worse than the guaranteed, which is pretty damn good, but it's probably going to perform on the non-guaranteed side. And why? What's the difference between guaranteed and non-guaranteed? Is dividends. Insurance companies pay dividends. Now, are dividends guaranteed? No, that's why it's called the non-guaranteed side. However, Alex, every insurance company that I work with has been paying dividends for over 124 consecutive years without fail. Without fail, they've been paying dividends. So let's just hypothetically say the insurance company did not pay a dividend this year. It's okay, because you still have the guaranteed contractual growth rate. But is that likely going to happen? Well, I guess there's a chance that Martians could come down out of space and scoop me up tonight and take me to Mars. There's that possibility. There's a possibility that a hurricane could hit on January the 6th today in Florida. Is it likely? No, a hurricane's not going to hit in January 6th today in Florida. Is it possible? I guess anything's possible. But is it likely? No, not at all. But it's okay, because even if the worst scenario happens, if the worst possible scenario happens in your whole life policy, that just means you only got the guaranteed growth in your policy and not the dividend. And just because the insurance company didn't pay dividend this year, does it mean they're not going to pay dividends next year? No, not at all, right? And like I said, 124 consecutive years without fail, the insurance companies have always paid dividends. So all we're doing, we're going to put our money. I know it should be more complicated than this. We're going to put our money into the policy. Now, the good news is, Alex, you get to choose how much money you want to put in the policy. I have clients, like I said, over 17,000 clients in every state of this country. I have clients that put in $50 a month into a policy. And my largest client, as we sit here today, I believe puts in $540,000 a month. So you choose the number you want to put in. Now, whatever number that is, whether you're on the lowest end of the spectrum or you're on the highest end of the spectrum, you pick a number in between those two numbers I just gave you to put in, okay, to start. No matter what that number is, that policy works the exact same way. It works the same way for the $50 guy as it does the $540,000 guy. You're thinking, well, how could that possibly be? Well, it works the same way. It's just working on a different amount. That's all it is. The amount that it's working is different, not the process, the concept, the system, the flow. That works the same. So would you rather have $540,000 growing in a guaranteed growth rate, or would you rather have $50 growing? It's up to you. There's no right or wrong to the answer. There's no right or wrong. And then guess what happens, Alex? When you start this concept in your life, because I know when you start it, you're very skeptical, you're very hesitant. You're like, oh, all your family is saying you're an idiot, you're crazy, you shouldn't do it. Well, quit taking advice from your broke ass brother-in-law. That's what I would tell you first, right? Because that's who's giving you financial advice. Really, think about who's giving you financial advice. Somebody that's broker than you are is giving you financial advice. Quit taking advice from your broke ass brother-in-law. Do your own research. And when you start this in your life, here's what happens. Here's what happens to 91% of my clients. 91% of my clients, they come back and they say, oh my gosh, this is working so good in my financial life that I want to start another policy. I want to start another branch office of my policy, just like your bank account. Wherever you do bank, the Bank of Colorado, is there one branch or multiple branches? There's multiple branches. Well, can you have multiple branches of your own banking system? Absolutely, you can. So 91% of all of my clients that have been with me a year or longer, guess what they do? They come back and start more. Now, why do I tell you that? I don't tell you that to brag that 91% of my client base comes back to do more. I tell you that because if this process, this concept, this system, this flow was not working for people, do you think 91 of 100 would be coming back for more? Could you imagine 91% of your patients? Could you imagine if 91% of your patients came back for more care? Could you imagine if 91% of your patients were actually referred other people to you? You would never need another new patient in your life. You would be so busy you couldn't even handle it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great, Brent. My wheels are turning, and I realize we don't have enough time to talk through everything that I was thinking.
We could always do a part two, Alex.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I might have to bring you back and talk about infinite banking and real estate and how that works. But I think this higher level overview is really important. I guess I want to finish up here the last couple minutes asking a couple more critiques that folks may have for infinite banking and see what your thoughts are and see how to best navigate that. So would you argue this concept is more of a financing tool, more of an investment, or a combination of both?
Great question. Most people think it's an investment because it grows. No, it is not an investment. This is how you're going to finance everything you do in your life, right? I'm never going to tell you where to put your money. I'm never going to tell you how to invest your money. See, the true definition of an investment, Alex, is something that can go up and something that can go down. This can never go down in value. It can never lose value, ever, ever, ever. It's never happened. Go look it up. Go find and show me where anybody has ever lost $1 in whole life insurance. And if you find it, please share it with me so I can share it with others and I can give you the credit for it. But you're not going to find it. I've been asking for going on 14 years now. Find me another vehicle that performs better than this, that gives you these features and benefits, that has guaranteed growth. So an investment goes up or down. This can never go down. It can never lose value. And just real quick, let me hit on this. I am a real estate investor. I have long-term rentals, short-term rentals, raw land, Airbnbs. I do a lot of lending. I have over, as we speak here today, the beginning of January 26, I have a little over $10.3 million lent out in real estate deals, where real estate is my collateral for the loans. All right. That's what I do. As my investments, I have a risk with all of that. Now, I try to make my risk very low. And how do I make my risk low? It's by being in first position. I even have a shirt that says, if you're not first, you're last. I used to be in second position. I've learned my lesson. I don't take second position loans anymore. Okay. I want to be in first position. So I use my policy money. In other words, I start with the step of getting the money in the policy first before I make the investment. Now, I try to do that with 100% of my money. I can't always get the money in there because here's the problem you run into. Like I have 30, I know we were talking offline before we started the recording. I have either 30 or 31 policies as we speak. I buy at least one policy every 1 to 2 years. Many of my clients have more policies than I do. Many of them have, one client has 108, okay? And some have 40, 50, 60, some have 8, 10, 12, some have 2, 3, some have 1, right? I buy at least one policy every 1 to 2 years. That is the vehicle. That is the process of what I do to finance everything I do in life, whether it's making an investment in a real estate piece of property, whether I'm buying an airplane, whether I'm buying a snowmobile. I go to Idaho every winter to go snowmobile, and I'm going to be there a month from today. I do that every winter. Go snow skiing every winter in Idaho, right? Snowmobile, snow skis. In the summertime, I go four-wheeling, ride side-by-sides in Idaho because those snowmobile trails turn into side-by-side trails. So I have every toy that you could possibly imagine. I have a Harley Davidson sitting in my airplane hangar that my son comes over about 4 times a year and says, Dad, why don't you ever drive this damn thing? He's the only one that drives it, right? So I've used this money that runs through the policy to acquire all of those, what I would call doodads. That's what Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he calls doodads, right? So I have all these doodads. Well, I had to spend money to buy the doodads. But if I run it through the policy, I get the doodad, I get the product or service that I bought, and I get the money back. And did I forget to mention that this concept that I teach, becoming your own banker, these whole life policies, Robert Kiyosaki, which he's famous for the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he wrote another book called Second Chance. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this concept in his book, Second Chance. The concept that I teach all around the country, Robert Kiyosaki talks about it. Tony Robbins wrote a book called Money, Master the Game. In chapter 5.4 of that Tony Robbins book, Money, Master the Game, Tony Robbins talks about this concept. Those are both great mentors. They're both great coaches. They wrote great, they have great material. But guess what? When they wrote about this concept in their book, they did a horrible job. And let me tell you why they did a horrible job. They did a good job, but they did a horrible job because what they did is they made the concept too difficult and to understand. And when you or me or just a lay person are reading these books, we get to that part of the book and we really don't understand or comprehend what the author is saying. So guess what we do? Instead of dialing in and trying to really peel back the onion and learn more about it, we just bypass it and go right on because we want to get to the end of the book and get to our next book or project. So what I've done is I've taken this concept, a concept that's been taught for well over 200 years, and I've broken it down into a very easy to understand 3rd grade level. Now, Alex, I am very good at teaching in the 3rd grade level. Why? Because it took me 13 trimesters to pass 10 trimesters of chiropractic college. I kept failing classes. When I finally passed and walked across the stage and received my diploma, and they said, Brent, you're a chiropractor, I really wasn't a chiropractor yet. You know why? Because I had to take this thing called the National Board Exams. There's many different parts of national board exams. Well, I failed part 3 of national boards. I failed it 3 times. I did not pass it until the 4th time. And they only allow you to take that test, Alex, once every 6 months. So I sat on the sideline for 2 years after I walked across the stage of getting my chiropractic degree where I could not even open a practice. So twice in my life, I've sat on the sidelines for 2 years. Once I had to pass part 3 of national board exams to be a chiropractor officially and be licensed in the state of Kansas. And the other time was by my own stupidity. I sat on the sidelines for 2 years because I didn't believe the infinite banking concept. I thought it was too good to be true. And I screwed my family out of 2 years of financial gain in my life by doing that.
Yeah, well, that's great, Brent. We gotta wrap things up. But man, this has been so good, and I would encourage everyone to go watch your 90-minute presentation. I was grateful that Dr. Stevenson gave you 2 hours to talk through this at the Legacy RX conference, and there was a lot to digest and unpack. So this 40 minutes is definitely not enough. And I think whether you agree with the concept or not, today's conversation really forces you to rethink about control, liquidity, how money is actually moving through your system and moving through your life. And so I really appreciate your time as well. Can you shout out how folks can reach out to you, how they can get the book, how they can learn more about you, Brent?
Yeah, again, all right, this book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, I wrote this book about 5 years ago. A guy I wrote it with is Chris Naugle. A lot of you in the real estate world may have heard of Chris Naugle. He's had a couple shows on TV, one on House Hunters, another one on HGTV called Risky Builders. He's a great guy to follow. So go on social media and just follow Chris Naugle, Naugle. Also, go to my daughter's podcast, the Money Multiplier podcast, Hannah Kesler. She has 140 plus episodes, records an episode every week. So kind of learn how a 26-year-old female thinks about money and what they do with money. But I will send every one of your viewers this book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. Drop me an email, Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com, and I'll send you the ebook. And if you don't want to send me an email, go to the website, themoneymultiplier.com. And I'm sure there's somewhere back there you can find the ebook. But more importantly, go to the tab that says Watch Brent Now. Spend 90 minutes of your life and watch the video. And actually, I'm going to guarantee that 90 minutes of your life is going to be so valuable for your financial thought process that if it's not, I want you to email me and Alex both, email us or text us, whatever. And I want you to say, this was a waste of time. And I will donate $100 to your favorite charity in your name, to whatever charity you choose, if you think it was a waste of your time watching that 90-minute video. And Alex will hold me accountable for making sure I make that donation. But I will send you this ebook, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. But yeah, just again, guys, go to our website, themoneymultiplier.com, or you can shoot me an email, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com. And like I said, more importantly, don't take anything I'm saying as gospel. Go out and Google my name, the Money Multiplier, and see the hundreds and hundreds of case studies, testimonials, success stories, plan designs of how this is working for the financial life of many, many people.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Brent. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. And hopefully Idaho gets some snow here soon, so you have something to play in next month. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Dr. Brent Kesler, Dr. Alex Schlow with another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast, signing off.
Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be considered financial or medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.